everyone. Okay, so before getting into the obvious, exciting thing about Elbaf with this chapter, we do gotta start this review by talking about Vegapunk one more time, because through a lengthy flashback detailing the events leading up to before any of what went down on Egghead happened, we learned that after Vegapunk found out about York's betrayal, the Mother Flame being stolen, he took direct and immediate action by erasing his memory, but not before preserving the one final the one final message to the world. And it's kind of funny how every worst case scenario he did foresee happening actually happened. So for this is one of those things that puts into perspective that for as extreme as Vegapunk's actions were, it was well and truly necessary in as what he was doing was the only way forward. And in retrospect, this chapter, while a little clunky with the initial delivery of information, does fix one of the biggest issues I had with this arc, at least, which is that for being the smartest man in the world, it did feel like he was getting intellectually outpaced at times, or just not fully grasping the consequences at play, only to find out through what this chapter reveals that, yes, very much, a lot of it was very much intentional, because unbeknownst to York and the government, Vegapunk had wiped his memory to prevent them from gaining absolute control over the knowledge he had obtained. Vegapunk it's even said in this chapter, Vegapunk never truly finished or completed or perfected the Mother Flame because he was just afraid of what the government would do with it, and that right up until that right up until the end, and ultimately that right up until the end, he chose not only to go out on his own terms, but also just how much he knew the stakes, and even if it was going to end like Ora, he refused to let it become the absolute same tragedy. Like Vegapunk, in a sense, purposely became the martyr to save everyone else. And on a final note, I do love how inquisitive Sanji was at the beginning of this chapter, that he realized something never really sat well with Vegapunk, and this whole flashback kind of proved all that to be true. But okay. With all that said, let's let Vegapunk stuff out of the way. Let's talk about the much bigger thing about this chapter, which is that we are finally headed to Elbaf. And yeah, I couldn't be happier for Usopp. Like, this is the moment where, at least according to Oda, the spotlight will be firmly trained on him. Now, the interesting thing about going into this arc for me is, the more I thought about it, the more I realized the potential greatness that this arc has going for it, but also some potential pitfalls as well. How don't get me wrong, I do believe Oda will be able to manage these pitfalls, but if you think about it, several things do need to be addressed within this arc. The first and foremost is obviously going to be Usopp's development potential, and just the question of what kind of person he's going to leave Elbaf as, and just what is going to be the focal point of his development, which I think is fair to say at this point. I think for Usopp, the crux of his development is going to be his observation haki, because this is something Oda had teased Usopp awakening in Dressrosa, but never addressed again. And if the endgame of One Piece is to defeat Blackbeard, then Usopp has to develop his haki in a way that's strong enough to counter Van Augur. Like, Van Augur is the biggest counterpoint to Usopp, and right now Usopp needs to be strong enough in order to face Van Augur on equal terms. This also brings into question what role the Red Hair Pirates, but especially Usopp's old man Yasopp, is going to play in this arc, because as far as we know, they're still on Elbaf. Although I am fully preparing for Oda to cock tease us once again with a complete reunion with Shanks. Like, I do not believe in any shape or form that Shanks is probably going to be on Elbaf, honestly. But I think at the very least we are. But at the very least, I think this arc is still going to involve Yasopp in some way. I think this arc story is still going to involve Yasopp in some way, because it could help with, involving Yasopp specifically could help with Usopp's development as well, because even though Usopp has always touted the idea that there's no bad blood between him and his father, he's always admired his father for following his dream. Let's be honest with ourselves, fitting with the theme of Usopp's character, I think he is lying to himself that he holds no resentment towards his father, and I think coming to terms with whatever resentment he may have towards Yasopp will be just as much part of his journey in Elbaf, in my opinion. Now, speaking in terms of Elbaf itself, though, there are going to be a few miscellaneous things that Oda is definitely going to need to juggle as well, in my opinion. The first is Prince Loki and just what his deal is, because Oda revealed he was supposed to be Lola's husband in a marriage arranged by Big Mom, but after that point, Oda just kind of left him to stew in the background, and it just never be brought up again in the story. But now that we are headed to Elbaf, we gotta learn what this guy's deal is and what he's actually like, because Oda is a masterclass in the idea just two sides to every story. So even though Big Mom tells the story of her fallout with the Giants, it'll be interesting to see what exactly Loki's version of that tale is. And I think my question, I think that's going to be the biggest thing I'm going to question right now. But even more so than that, what more can we learn about the Void Century from the Giants' perspective? Which also brings me to my next point. But we need a Robin and Saul reunion. Like, ever since we learned he survived Ohara, Oda basically just put this reunion on the board, and now it's time to follow through with it. Especially now that so much has been revealed about the Void Century, it should be interesting to see what more Robin could learn from Elbaf. Because, remember, for as much as Vegapunk revealed, supposedly it wasn't entirely the full story either. Only what he had found out. So, even though he did give a broad reveal of what had happened, there's probably a lot more to find out beneath the surface, and a lot more to learn in terms of Joy Boy's journey that we have yet to unravel. And just, on a more basic level, I think having Robin reunite with Saul and him helping her would be a nice contrast to how things used to be when he was a vice admiral. But when he pursued her Robin's mother Olvia, and they were antagonistic towards each other initially. So like it's kind of gonna be an interesting dynamic of seeing them work together now. And yeah, so as a whole, there's a lot of potential here. It's just in the way Oda executes it. The only part I think I'm having trouble figuring out right now is what Oda plans to do with the rest of Straw Hats while they're on Elbaf. Because Robin, Usopp, and even Luffy, too, by virtue of being the next Joy Boy, have narrative reasons to be there. But the rest, yeah, it's still kind of a blank slate. But it'll be interesting to see how Oda incorporates the other Straw Hats into Elbaf. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Analyst, Crunchyroll. Be sure to notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and just share the video around, guys. Dark Knight Renee signing off. Later, everyone.